Hello all and welcome to the official FanTeam podcast brought to you by FanTeam, the biggest daily fantasy site in Europe. My name is Andrew and today I'm joined once again by fantasy football guru Holly Shand. It's great to have you back on, Holly. I saw you had a good fantasy week this week.
Yeah, I had a very good week. I managed to hit on a lot of players that had double figure hauls, so it's really propelled me up FPL, and luckily I've got a few of those players in my FanTeam season long entries as well, so it's been a good week all around.
Fantastic. So you had Soucek, Cancelo. Who else was it you had? Because there's a few hauls this week, wasn't
Gundogan
there?
and
Gundogan.
Rafinha.
And Rafinha.
Yeah,
Oh my
I
goodness.
was on
So
like 70 plus points after Tuesday night.
That's incredible. So
Yeah.
have you got any of them in your FanTeam season long game as well?
Yeah, I went for Gundogan as a KDB replacement in most of
Nice.
my entries this week, and I played Soucek in I think 4 of my 5 season long entries. So I was pretty pleased that that decision paid off because there was a few benching
It
headaches ahead of the
was.
deadline.
It was. Have you had any recent luck in any of the weekly monsters? Any wins or anything? Any cash
I've had
outs?
I've had a few little
Yeah.
payouts. I was having a look at how FPL General managed to take it all down, didn't they, the other week?
Gameweek
And I
18.
feel like I need to change my tactics a little bit,
Right.
to try and target a few fixtures and then having a look for maybe one underdog that you expect to get the win to sort of enable the rest of the squad. So I'm hoping to take inspiration from Mark with this week's entry. So I've gone a little bit different to what I would normally do.
Okay, we look forward to looking at in a little bit. And in terms of football, starting to get back to a bit of normality, I suppose, post COVID issues. Hopefully now, I think the Premier League infection rate is the lowest it's been in a long time. And in terms of the game weeks as well, because, it's over, I think the last 5 or 6 weeks, there's been like a couple of game weeks in nearly every week, getting back to kind of normality. Are you looking forward to that? Obviously, both as a football fan, but also as a content creator yourself.
Yeah, it'll be quite refreshing. I mean, it's easier to stay on top of everything when you've just got the one round of games in a week. And when you go to look at the fixtures, if you've got, 10 fixtures, everyone playing just once, it's nice to have that. I know, we love double game weeks in FPL and we love having all these extra midweek fixtures, but I always find that when the schedule's congested, particularly with these midweek rounds, you tend to get more of those strange results and
Yeah,
it's a
you
lot
do.
more difficult to predict, which obviously as fantasy managers we like things to be as predictable as possible to give ourselves an easier job.
As happened to Manchester United last night. Obviously, a home loss against Sheffield United. There'll be a few Bruno and Rashford owners not best pleased with their performance last night. So for our YouTube watchers, please remember to click the subscribe button in the bottom right hand corner of the screen and to press the like button if you enjoy our content. So our feature tournament for this podcast and video is the Gameweek 21 Weekly Monster, which has a prize pool this week of a massive €100,000, and we'll be running through the game week's applicable fixtures and sharing our entries with you, just so our watchers and listeners are aware what it is. It's very familiar to the free hit chip in Fantasy Premier League, where you basically pick the best 11 players for the game week that you think will score the most points. So just to briefly look at the rules, you build a squad of 11 players. It must include 1 goalkeeper, 3 defenders, 2 mids and 1 forward as a minimum. You can select up to a maximum of 3 players from any one Premier League team. You have a budget of 105 million to build your 11-man team, and you can make unlimited changes to your team until the first match kicks off on Saturday at 1600 CET, which is 3 p.m. UK time. You pick a captain who scores double points for you, or a vice captain who will replace your captain if he doesn't play. Players are priced in accordance with match odds, and a safety net applies. So if your player does not start, he will be replaced with a player who is cheaper in that position and for the same club, and player prices will not change. So for those watching on YouTube, the point scorer matrix is now on screen. As you can see, it's very similar to the season-long FanTeam game and indeed the Fantasy Premier League game. Holly, with the Premier League so close at the top and the bottom, I mean, season has been fantastic, right? I'm sure I heard a stat this week that Man City are the 9th Premier League team to be at the top of the Premier League this season. Absolutely, superb and very exciting. Who do you think are the teams we need to look out for in the coming weeks?
Well, I think we need to be looking for consistency, and it's a time where form over fixtures, really sets a precedent
Yeah,
for me. And I think, obviously Manchester City are the consistent team at the moment. They're winning games, they're not conceding, and they're starting to, gel more as an attacking unit and score a few more goals, which is great to see. I also like the look of Leicester City, who are on a pretty good, unbeaten run as well. Obviously they've got Vardy out at the moment, but I think he's going to come back in soon. There's a few defensive injuries there, though, that they've picked up in the midweek game, which does cause a little bit of concern. If you're going to take Evans and Ndidi out of that team, as well
yeah.
as Vardy, what impact is that going to have? And then Arsenal seem to be slowly creeping up. They've, I think they've won 4 of their last 5 games. Big game, obviously, this weekend at home to Manchester United. I think if they were to pick up some points there, then they could really, charge up the Premier League table as well. And, West Ham have been,
Incredible.
dabbling with that top 4 this week. So, you can't rule them out either because they're scoring goals and they're not conceding many chances defensively either.
Yeah, it's interesting. The whole the whole form versus fixtures debate is really, really good. It's really interesting, and it seems to change nearly every week. Is the thing, if you'd have said Arsenal and Man United, so I've picked an Arsenal player this week because Man United looked pretty dire last night. And as you mentioned, Arsenal have picked up a lot. If you'd have said that to me a couple of weeks ago, I would have. I would have laughed in your face, but I do think that it's changing all the time, every week, every fortnight almost. So it's very hard to keep on top of, and that's where the skill is for us, obviously. As fantasy managers, there are 3 full round classic tournaments every game week. This week, one has a prize pool of €12,500 with a guaranteed first prize of €1,000, which you can enter for as little as €2. For this week, there is also a free entry to this competition for new FanTeam users. So if you do fancy seeing what all the fuss is about, head over to fanteam.com, register and play that tournament for free. There is also a high roller tournament if you want to play for big money. But our feature tournament for this podcast is the €100,000 prize pool game with a guaranteed €10,000 first prize for just a €20 entry. The teams we pick can be used across all monster tournaments. Just a reminder, to enter all FanTeam contests, you must be over 18 and be gambleaware.org. So in this game week, we have 9 applicable fixtures for this competition, which are Crystal Palace against Wolves, Manchester City against Sheffield United, which on paper, you'd look at smacking into Man City, but actually looking at Sheffield United last night, maybe it's not as easy as we first thought. West Brom versus Fulham, Arsenal against Man United, as you mentioned, Holly. Southampton against Aston Villa, so they're all on the Saturday. And then on the Sunday, we have Chelsea host Burnley, Leicester play Leeds, West Ham against Liverpool, and Brighton against Spurs. It is worth noting that the early kickoff on Saturday between Everton and Newcastle will not be part of the contest. So what stands out for you, Holly, in terms of these fixtures and the teams you'll be targeting or not targeting?
Well, I'm still pretty interested in Manchester City against Sheffield United. They'll have an extra day's rest and they've got that massive momentum now. Like everyone around them keeps dropping points. That's, really helps them to ascend to the top of the Premier League table. Now, I'm not expecting a 3-0, 4-0, 5-0 sort of performance. I think it's more likely to be a 1-0 or 2-0 win for Manchester City against those tired Sheffield United legs. Like they put a lot of effort into getting that result at Old Trafford, and it's unlikely that they'll be able to, repeat that performance again this weekend with the turnaround time being so soon. So I'm going to focus on making sure I've got 3 Manchester City players in my lineup, but it's going to be more a focus on the defence rather than the attack in this case.
Makes sense. Any others kind of catch your eye in terms of targeting or avoiding?
Yeah, I like the look of Spurs away to Brighton. I think that'll be a good fixture for them to pick up a goal or 2. I also like Leicester City, who have got Leeds United. Leeds United haven't been the best from a defensive perspective all season, and they're in a bit of a rut in terms of, their current form as well. I think, the style of football that they play doesn't suit this congested schedule, and have found it really difficult over December and January. And then the other fixture that I think could be an exciting one is Southampton against Aston Villa. I think it ended 4-3 earlier in the season. It was an absolute goal fest. So, that could be another good fixture to target. The one that I'm not sure about is West Ham against Liverpool, because Liverpool haven't been in the greatest form in recent games. West Ham have been performing very well, particularly, their goal scoring. So that could be one where, the prices are quite well suited to the West Ham players, because they're obviously not favourites to beat Liverpool, but, a surprise result makes their assets quite good enablers.
Completely agree. Yeah, I think there's a lot of really good matchups this week. The Palace and Wolves game, I don't think it'll be a great game or a high scoring affair. Palace are struggling a bit, but Wolves are as well. I expect maybe Wolves to actually maybe edge that one. I thought they played okay last night against Chelsea. Man City and Sheffield United, I completely agree with you. I think Sheffield United absolutely shattered, and I think they'll just play to keep the score down. And Man City, I think, will score a goal or two and be happy there. So yeah, I think you're right there. West Brom and Fulham, I think, will be a really interesting game, because West Brom at home have been awful, but they need to start picking up points. And Fulham, they will be targeting that as a really good opportunity. But saying that, Fulham are playing really well as well, and if West Brom continue to ship goals at home, then maybe looking at a Fulham attacker, maybe an option there. Arsenal United, I think, is quite hard to call out. Expect, sadly, quite a drab affair there, because Arsenal are playing very defensively. Man United are struggling to score a little bit, so I'm not expecting too much from that game. Leicester Leeds, I think, could be an absolute wide open, really interesting watch. So review there. And Chelsea and Burnley might be quite interesting, because obviously Chelsea last night made something like 820 passes. I'm sure they'll do the same against Burnley, but they've
got to do something other than pass the ball, haven't
exactly. And Burnley have scored a couple of goals recently as well, including obviously 3 against Villa this week as well. So that's going to be an interesting one. So quite a lot of really good matchups there. Looking at your team now, Holly, for this 4-round weekly monster for Game Week 21. We've got your team on screen. Would you mind running through your team and your thoughts for our podcast listeners?
Yeah, so it's a bit different to my usual setup, because I've not just tried to put in every big scoring attacker that I think is going to score goals this week. And I've, tried to go for a bit of a different formation. So it's a 4-3-3, but I feel like my defence has got a lot more potential than it normally does. I normally run out of funds and then just put in whoever I can afford. Yeah. I have still gone with the traditional budget keeper in Nick Pope, because as we've just mentioned, Chelsea, are favourites to beat Burnley, but they've not been scoring too many goals. And, the new manager's, just trying to find, his best formation, the best players to fit into that formation. So I think, even though Burnley will give Chelsea a lot of chances, I think Pope could have a chance of a clean sheet and will certainly make plenty of saves. Manchester City were the priority. It was just which 3 to choose. In the end, I've gone with Cancelo, John Stones and Gundogan, because, they've all had monster hauls in the last few games. And I wanted to go with 2 defenders and 1 attacker rather than the other way around, because I feel like, the fixture could be quite a low scoring one. Obviously, Gundogan is on penalties, which is good for him. So I've gone with Kane and Son as well for Spurs against Brighton, because I can see Spurs winning that game and scoring a goal or 2, and they tend to score and assist each other in tandem. So it seemed like a logical choice to double up on them. And then where else I've gone in the attack then? Well, I've actually, I've looked at that West Ham fixture at home to Liverpool, and I've gone with Mikel Antonio, because I feel like West Ham will score, because Liverpool have been far from solid defensively, particularly on the road. And, Antonio just looks hungry for goals at the moment. And I've also partnered him up with Cresswell, because Liverpool haven't been scoring too many goals either. And, Cresswell is doing very well in terms of his assist threat this season. And, I could see a Cresswell corner or set piece
Onto
coming
a
in, or
Selchuk
just a
head,
cross and
probably.
well, hopefully an Antonio head.
Yeah,
I think Antonio was very unlucky to miss out on the goals midweek, so surely it's
definitely.
his turn come the weekend. I've also gone with Oliver Watkins. I kind of wanted Jack Grealish, but I ran out of funds, so it had to be Watkins to target that Southampton Aston Villa game, which I can see being quite a high scoring affair. And then I've also gone with two players from opposing teams for the Leicester against Leeds United game. I've gone with Harvey Barnes as my Leicester attacker because I'm expecting Leicester to win this game and score quite a few goals. I mean, we're spoiled for choice with Madison, Tillmans, and Barnes at the moment,
Yeah.
but Barnes just slightly edges it for me because I feel like he's the one that's going to get the goals from open play, and they'll be afforded those quick attacks against Leeds because Leeds will allow them a lot of space. But I have put a Leeds defender in there. But is it really a Leeds defender? Stuart Dallas, we saw play in midfield in midweek. And I feel like with the key injuries that Leicester have, I do think Leeds United will manage to score a goal. And I wouldn't be surprised if Dallas was one of the players involved there. So he's come in a bit of a differential and is a bit of a budget enabler as well for the final player in the starting 11.
Really, really nice 11 there. I think it's the first time in a few weeks I've looked at someone else's team and I prefer it to my own. You've got your captain on the Leicester man.
Yeah, so I decided if you're gonna get a big win, you need to be going a little bit rogue with the captaincy, and it is a week where there isn't any,
Yeah, I agree there.
really obvious standouts. And I could have gone with Gundogan, I could have gone with Son or Kane, but I just thought, why not? I've not got any Leicester players in my FPL team, so I want like a slice of the pie to support them at least on FanTeam this weekend, if nothing else.
Cool. Yeah, really, really good team there and some sound rationale there, Holly. So onto my team. So my team looks very, very different from yours actually. So I've gone for Ramsdale in goals. I tend to always go for the cheapest keeper in the game. So obviously, they're away to Man City. I would expect Man City to have an awful lot of shots, but I'd expect Ramsdale to make a few saves. Last game week, or the current game week we're in, is the only time it hasn't worked out, obviously, because I picked Sam Johnston against Man City, but he only made one save and conceded five.
Crikey.
But normally, the keepers are good for a couple of points, which is, at 4.5 million, he kind of enables the rest of your team. So I'm quite happy having him in there. I've gone for Cancelo at the back, same as you. I mean, what a wonderful performance. He's been threatening it for, months, it seems like now, haven't he?
Yeah.
That kind of, what a finish in the top left-hand corner that was. Obviously, with a lines woman flagging, it kind of took the shine off it a little bit. I do wonder if she hadn't have flagged, whether the defenders have closed him down a bit quicker and stopped him scoring. So
Yeah.
I do think it's a bit of a,
Maybe, but he had other chances in that game as well, though,
he did.
didn't
Oh,
he?
it's been well deserved. He's been superb. But I've gone for back four on my other ones. So I've gone for Rudiger, Chelsea at home to Burnley. I never thought I would go for Rudiger, but he looks first choice. If he doesn't start, it'll go down with the safety net to the next Chelsea defender. But I can just see Chelsea and Burnley just being a pretty poor 0-0 sort of affair. He has had good attacking threat over the years as well, Rudiger. I remember owning him a couple of seasons ago in FPL. I think he scored two headers in 4 or 5 game weeks or something. So, he does get forward off corners and things. And I've gone for double defence at the back for Leicester. So as you mentioned, Leeds have been struggling at the back all season. They're now struggling up top as well all season. And I think, so I've gone for the full back. So I've gone for Justin and Castagna, both to get forward an awful lot. Obviously, if they keep the clean sheet, they will get their points. But I think they probably both got an outside chance of some attacking returns as well. Because, as you mentioned, Leicester tend to concede a lot of goals, both from open play, but also set pieces as well. So, and Justin recently has probably looked a lot more threatening. But Castagna, before his injury, I think he got, a goal and a couple of assists as well. So gone with those. In midfield, gone for Gundogan as well. So he's my captain at the moment.
Yeah.
sensational performance against West Brom. His 2 goals. I mean, that like what De Bruyne hasn't been doing for the last month or 6 weeks is just composing himself in front of goal and passing the ball into the corner. And Gundogan did it twice with bells on this week, didn't he? He was absolutely sublime. So I really, really think that Gundogan is going to lead the charge for Man City for the rest of the season. If he stays in that, more advanced role, I think he's a fantastic player. I've always thought he's a good player, but I think now he's an excellent, fantasy option as well. I too have gone for Son, so agree with you. I think that Brighton will ship a couple of goals. I think the Brighton will score. I think they've got a knack of scoring, so I can see maybe a Brighton 1 Spurs 2 sort of result there. Personally, I've gone for Neto away to Palace. So Palace have been quite poor at the back recently. Neto should have scored for Wolves against Chelsea last night, and he has been in good form over the last month or two. So I've put Neto in there, and I've also gone for Lookman away to West Brom. So looking at West Brom's home record, I don't think they've scored, but they've conceded 5-4, 3-5 or something ridiculous like that. So I can see Fulham getting a goal or two, and I think if Fulham score, Lookman is generally involved. And I mentioned last week, talking to Ben and Mark last week, I think Lookman is a really genuine superstar of the future. He just looks such a wonderful player. Obviously very raw and very young. I think he's got the potential to be a really big player in the future. And I've gone for a 2 up front, so I agree with Antonio. I think he's great value this week at 7.7 million against Liverpool.
Yeah, it looks like a bargain, doesn't it?
He does. They've struggled to keep clean sheets, Liverpool, and Antonio, he's just a beast. He's in the 3 games he's come back. He obviously scored in the first 2. He got an assist in the third. Should have maybe got a couple of goals as well in the third. Hit the post twice and stuff as well. So I think Antonio looks really good value there. I've actually gone for Lacazette, which I don't think I've picked. I think I've picked an Arsenal player all season, but I thought Arsenal looked very good against Southampton away midweek, and I was very surprised actually at that result. I was expecting again, a bit of a 0-0 or a 1-0 either way. But they looked very good and very attacking, and they're playing a Man United team who seem to generally concede early, and then they're chasing the game all the time. So I just thought, something a bit different there. So I've gone for Lacazette up front and a bit of a 4-4-2. It's not normally the profile of team I would generally pick at all, but it's not a normal team that generally wins the weekly prize. As you kind of alluded to. So I may take the armband off Gundogan as well and chuck it on someone random like, I don't know, Antonio or even Lacazette, because if one of those two can get a couple of goals, I doubt they'll be highly owned this week and definitely not captain. So go for the win and maybe enter a couple of different entries and kind of vary it a little bit there. But yeah, I think between the two of us, well, I think between the two teams I prefer yours, but I'll probably enter one similar to yours as well, I think. So
yeah, we'll see which one prevails by Sunday.
We will indeed. Are there any other players at all, Hoy, that you were kind of looking at but didn't quite make the cut for your team?
Yeah, I mean, I could have chosen any of the Leicester midfielders in there. Obviously, Jack Grealish was a big consideration as well. I mean, I may regret going with the defensive setup from Manchester City because, the likes of Sterling and Foden, have got a huge point ceiling if this game ended up being more of a goal fest. So there's certainly a load of options this week, and a lot of the fixtures are quite difficult to call, which does make things quite interesting.
I think the captaincy this week is wide open because there's definitely not a standout option. I think I think the Spurs players may be the highest picked option, among the fantasy games. But Spurs recently, obviously have been happy to score a goal or two and just kind of sit on their lead. So even if they score a goal or maybe two, that it's very rare they go on now, and push for the third and fourth, wherever it is. So Gundogan, Cancelo, the Leicester players against Leeds, as you say. I think it's pretty wide open, and I think we're going to see quite a wide variety of teams this week because look at the difference with our two teams. They're very different, and we generally have quite a similar line of thinking when it comes to players. So yeah, really interesting stuff. Okay, so that is it from us for this episode. All the links are below for all the games we have discussed today. Don't forget, for this week, there is also that free entry to the €12,500 tournament for new FanTeam users. So head to FanTeam.com to register and play that tournament for free and give it a go. You might enjoy it as we do every single week. Thank you so much, Holly, for joining me this week. We'll have you on again very soon. Are you sticking with Barnes for captaincy, do you think?
Yeah, why not? I might enter the big monster and then the smaller one, and maybe alter the armband.
Chuck it on someone else. That makes sense. Yeah, just vary it up. Okay. Remember that if you liked what you watched, please press the like button, and remember to subscribe to the channel in the bottom right hand corner of the screen. If you're listening on a podcast, please rate the podcast and leave a comment. So this podcast will be available as a video on the FanTeam YouTube channel and available as an audio version on all major podcast platforms, including Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and SoundCloud. Just search for Official FanTeam Podcast. Our website is fanteam.com. Our Twitter handles are at FanTeamOfficial and at FanTeam_UK. Give us a follow for regular game updates and for entry giveaways for lots of other FanTeam competitions. We'll be back very soon, looking ahead to another weekly monster. The very best of luck for Game Week 21. Goodbye for now.